Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Subject Computer Science, Unit number 2, Core Python, Chapter number 7, Python Function, Part 1. Last class we completed Chapter 6. Now we are going to discuss the following topics from Chapter 7: Introduction, defining function, calling function, passing parameters to function, function arguments, anonymous function, the return statement. The first topic, introduction. Of course, functions are are named blocks of code that are designed to do specific job. We can call functions by using their names whenever in whenever we want in our program. Function process the instruction in its block and return the result in this specific point. After calling the function, we can call many times a single function in a single program. Which is helpful in uh, to the programmer avoid repetition and making high degree of code using it provides better modularity for your application. So this is the two important advantages of function: avoiding repetition and make high degree of code using and provide better modularity for your application. So names functions are classified into four types: user defined function, which was created by user themselves; built-in function, which already created stored in Python program; lambda function, their function is also called as anonymous function. It means the function without name; recursion function, a function which was created by user called itself. The function call itself is called a recursion function. In this chapter, we are going to discuss these four types of function. The first function is user defined function. So how we can define a function? So for defining a function, we should use a keyword called def. After that, we should use the name and then give the parentheses. Within the parentheses, we should mention the parameters, that is variables used as input, arguments, that is values as input. So here in the syntax, you can see def space function name. After the function name, within the parenthesis symbol, the user should give the parameters if you want as any input from outside for the function. Here you can give values also. If the user gives the variable name, then the variables are called parameters. If user gives the value directly to the function defining place, then that then value are called as arguments. So each and every parameters or argument should be separated by commas. After that, uh, after closing the parenthesis, colon should be given. So colon should be typed. So colon is the used to represent that the function ends. After uh, this line, defining function line, user want to give the block of statement which are going to execute when this function is called. This block of statement should be tabbed. That means this block of statement should be inside the def function. After entering the block of statement, the return statement should be used: return expression or none. That is, if this function is going to give any output to the external area, then after the return keyword, that value should be here. If the function is not going to return any value, then you can leave this space by simply we can leave this space by giving space, black white space also. So these are the three parts in this defining the function. The first part is we should use def. After give space, give the function name and then give the space. After within the parentheses, set the parameters if you want. It is if user want. After then type the colon and then enter the block of statement and then we go the return statement. Now we are going to see the advantages of user defined function. User defined functions are very helpful to divide a program into module. This makes the code easier to manage. So one of the biggest problem in big programs is managing programs, so which can easily solve by using function. It implements code reuse. So another problem is reusing the function. reusing the codes. Because of using a function, we can reuse the same function again with a number of times without repeating the code. It will helpful in reducing the size of the program. Next important advantages is function allows us to change functionality easily, and different programmers can work on different function. So this is the three important advantages of user defined function. Number one, dividing program into module, which is used to manage program. Second one, reusing the code, which will helpful in reducing the size of the module and program. Next, we can change the functionality without any uh, complexity. So these are the three advantages of user defined function. Now we are going to discuss how to create a function and how to calling a function. So in example 7.1, the function is created with the name hello, and the function is called in two different ways. One as hello, another one is the function within print function. So when hello function is called directly, the output of the program is hello Python, and alternatively when the hello function is within print function, then the output of the program is hello hyphen Python with none letter. So now we are going to execute this program for 7.1 to understand how we can call a function and how we can call a function hello, how to define a function. Now we are going to open Python from start menu, go to the all programs, select Python 3.4, IDLE Python 3.4. Here I am going to open the program 7.1 to understand how a function is defined and how a function can be called. So in the Python prompt, to open a file 7.1, press Ctrl plus O or use file arrow mark open option, select program 7.1. So in this program you can see a function is defined, created. This function is called user defined function. You can see the def function is used. After that the function name is typed, that is the function name is hello. Here with parentheses there is no parameter, it means this function is not going to accept any inputs from outside. After colon symbol is used, and then the tab is used for block statement. The only one block statement is print hello Python. It means this function is going to print this hello hyphen Python in the screen. After return statement, the function is end. Now we are going to call this function hello directly without using any other function. And second method, hello function is placed within the print function, that is a function is within a function. It is called a nested function. Now we are going to run this program to see how the output will display on the screen. So this function is called here two times. These two statements are going to execute one by one. The first statement is with hello, the second statement is hello function with print function. Now on the screen you can see hello Python. So this is the our first output of the first function when we call the hello function for first time. These two lines is the output of the second function when we call the hello function for second in print command. If you want to change the program, you can change the codings and you can see the output. I'm going output is vary. Now I'm going to remove this second time calling the function and save the program. Now I'm going to run the program. Here you can see the function is called for one time, so only one single statement hello Python is displayed on your screen. When you call the function within any within a print function, that is print is a built-in function, you can see the function becomes nested function. When we run this program, the hello hyphen print Python statement print with the none word. So none is displayed on the screen because we are calling hello function within the print function. If the return has no argument, then the none statement will display as the last statement of the output when we are using the user defined function in built-in function. So this is the simple example for understanding the for creating function and calling function. So this function does not return any value, so the output is none. If the output returns any value, for example here I am going to give a small word as a output. That means Here I am going to give word uh, school as a output for return statement. I'm going to say this now. When I run this program, you can see hello Python and school. That means return have a output expression. So that's why the none statement is not printed. Simply it print the school. If you call this function without print function, that is if you call the hello function without print, then also the same output we are going to display on the screen. So here you can see hello Python, but here the return function does not does have a output expression. That's why the only the statement is printed. The return expression is not printed when we directly call the hello function. So this is the simple example for understanding calling a function method. Now we are going to learn the next content called passing parameters to function. If any function created by user have parameters, that is inputs, then how we can give inputs to the function, which we can understand by using a program called 7.1. Now again open the Python, go to IDE, open the example file 7.2, where we are going to understand how we can give inputs to the user defined function. So here you can see your defined function called area. Thus here function name is area. There are two inputs W and H. The return value has the expression W and H. So there is no block of statement. It means this expression is executed and printed on the screen when we are using in the print function, when we are using area function within the print. So now here I am calling the area function with the two inputs, that is 3 and 5. So 3 is the value for the W and 5 is for the value for the H. So now I am going to run this program. You can see 3 into 5, 15. When I remove any one of this value, you can see the error was displayed on the screen, because each and every program, every function must have a number of which have a number of input. It should be it should be passed with a number of values. Here you can see area missing one required positional argument, that is H. So this is the simple example where we can give inputs, that is we can pass parameters to the function. So next thing is, which we are going to understand, is when the same function is called, that is area function called without print function, then what will be the output? Here you can see you cannot see any output on the screen, because the function is returned to the particular point, which can be used to store in any other variable, or we can use this value to store to process in any other expression, but we cannot display on the screen. So this is the simple thing. Return whatever the function returns, the output by using a return statement is not displayed on the screen. It simply passed to the particular area. From that area, user can use that value to store into another variable or store in the another expression for next processing. So if the user want to print the return value, then you should use print command to display the return expression value. So here I am going to use the print function for displaying the return value of the area function. So you can see 3 into 4, 12. So this is the simple example for understanding how we can give the input to the function. The next content is function arguments. Based upon the arguments, function are divided into four uh, types. Number one, required arguments. Required arguments are the argument passed to a function in correct position or order. Here the number of argument in the function call should match exactly with the function definition, which we already discussed, but in the 7.3 we are going to learn the same content, that it means whatever the argument is defined for the any function, it should be passed to it. If any one of the argument is missed, then there will be an error. Here you can see print info function is created with two arguments, namely name and salary. Now we are going to print the name and salary on the screen. These statements are called block statement. There is no return value for this function, so print info function is called without print function. Here two values are passed. One is Rajkumar, another one is 25,000. Rajkumar stores in the name variable, that is name parameter. 25,000 is stored in the salary parameter. Now I am going to execute this statement. You can see the output, name colon Rajkumar, salary colon 25,000. So when I remove any one of these input, you can see the error on the screen, which we already discussed in the 7.1. That is, the number of argument defined for any function, it should be passed to the function. This type of function are called a required argument function. So here you can see one argument missing, one required position argument, namely salary. So this is the first type of function type, function argument type called required arguments. So next function type which we are going to discuss is key argument type. So function argument types with key arguments. Key arguments will invoke the function after parameters are recognized by their parameters name. So here in keyword arguments, we are using the parameters name when we are calling any function. In 7.4 we can understand how we are going to use call any function by using the names of the parameters. So open this 1.4. In this program you can see the same function is defined with the print info with the two parameters, namely salary and name and salary. Here when print info function is called, we are giving the 25,000 first input and Rajkumar for second input, but additionally we are adding a key, adding the variable name here. This is called the keyword. Here when user using the name of the parameters in calling area, then this name is called as keyword. When we are using a keyword, there is no need to give any parameters uh, in order of the parameters created in the function. So here you can see first salary is given as input and the name is given as output input, but when we are creating a print info function, name is declared as first argument, salary is second argument. So in keyword arguments function, there is no necessary to give the inputs in order which was created. So now I'm going to uh, run the program. Here you can see the output will display on the screen. Name is equal to Rajkumar, salary is equal to 25,000. In required argument, there is a compulsion to give each and every input to parameters. Here also the same compulsion is here, but there is no need to give the input in such order. We can change the order. So that is the simple the advantages of using key arguments. So the value of the key arguments is matched with the parameter name, so no one can also put argument in proper order. This is the advantages of using key arguments, that is giving the parameter value by using the parameter name. The next argument is default argument, where the default value is stored in the function defining area. So now I'm going to open the second program 7.5, where a function is created with default value. Here I'm going to open the Python. Now I'm going to open the file 7.5. In this program we can see a function defined with two arguments, namely name and salary, where salary is given already. So here you can see the salary for every employee, salary value is defaultly is set in the defining area itself. So this type of argument is called default arguments. When we calling the function, we don't want to give two values for this argument. Only one value can pass to the value to the parameters, because the second parameter is already default parameter. So now I'm going to run this program. You can see the output, name Rajkumar and 25,000. For instance, if the user give the second value, what will happen? See, 20,000. Then the 20,000 will accepted as an input and display on the screen. If the user or user is not willing to give the salary input to this print info function, then the default value is accepted as a second input. So this is the third argument called default argument. So default argument is executed when user is not given any input to the particular parameter. If for example, if I am going to set the name parameters default value comma as a xxx, now I am going to call the same function without giving the input values. See, the output will display xxx 25,000. This xxx and 25,000 is taken from the default value arguments. If I am going to give the value for that inputs, here I am going to give the input Raj, comma, salary as 58,000. Then the current value is accepted as input and display on the screen, that is Raj and 58,000. These default arguments will execute when there is no input from and there is no input is passed from the user. So this is the simple example. Now we are going to discuss the next topic called uh, default function. Now we are going to discuss the variable length argument. In some instance, you might need to pass more arguments than have already been specified. For example, when we are creating a function, we define three variables for any function, for that three parameters for that function. But at the time of executing the program, we need to pass four or five values as an input to the particular function. Then we unable to pass that extra values to extra parameters to that particular function because there is only three arguments are passed. So if you want to give more values depending upon the requirement at the time of executing program, then you can use this variable length argument. So this variable length using this variable length argument is very simple. That is, here def function underscore name asterisk argument name. So you want to specify any one argument name with the prefix of asterisk symbol. It means there are number of arguments is defined based upon the input of the function. So when user call any function and gives that input, then the arguments number of arguments are specified. In example 7.6, we can easily understand this program. So open the program 7.6. Here we are going to understand variable length argument. In this program, here you can see a print numbers function with variable length argument. That is, there is only one argument, namely NOS, where with the prefix of asterisk. Now when first time we call this function, we passing two inputs, that is 1 and 2. When second time when we call the same function, there is the input call, the number of input is 3, 10, 20 and 30. Both the inputs are accepted and printed by same function. So here when we run this program, you can see when we first call, the two values are passed as input. 1 and 2 is displayed on the screen, accepted by print numbers function. When second time print number function is called with the three values, then these three values are also accepted by same function and displayed on the screen. How it is possible? Because we are going to display these number of arguments one by one by using the for loop function, where n in nos means there are number of arguments, where one by one argument, where each and every arguments are accessed one by one and displayed on the screen by using this for loop. So here there is no restriction to give only numbers. We can give alphabets also here. Now I am going to add some more commands here. Where I am going to give different types of inputs, that is with numbers and letters. Here I am going to give uh, characters as a input, like Malar. The second input as Alex. third input as Akbar, and fourth input as a number. So number 1001. So here you can see there are four parameters, in which three parameters are characters, that is strings, and one is number. Now I am going to execute this program. You can see the output. So Malar, Alex, Akbar 101. So depending upon the user's input, the number of arguments vary from each and every time. These type of arguments are called variable length argument. The length of the argument is depending upon the input of the user when user calls any function. So this is the four type of argument types. Number one, first one, the required argument. Second one, keyword and default argument. Third one, variable length argument. Now we are going to understand anonymous function. This is the second type of function. This function is also called as lambda function. When we are when we are creating any function, user defined function, at that time we should use def function, and as well as we want to give a name for that function. But in lambda function there is no restriction to give name for that function. We simply use lambda as a keyword instead of using def function. So def keyword is used for defining user defined function. Lambda keyword is used for defining lambda function or anonymous function. In def function the name for the function is compulsory. In lambda function the name for the function is optional, or we need to ban optional. So here we are going to understand the lambda function syntax. Here we are using the lambda and arguments and colon. After placing the colon we are giving the expression for executing the function. This is called a block codes of this lambda function. We can understand this lambda function by from the example 7.7. The lambda function is mostly used for creating small and one-time anonymous function. That is, lambda function is created for one time, created with small codes and used for one time. Lambda functions are mainly used in combination with the function like filter, map, and reduce. So this is the simple difference between user defined function and lambda function. User defined function should be declared with def function. Lambda function or anonymous function should be start with the keyword lambda. In user defined function we should give the name for the function. In lambda function there is no necessary for giving a name for the function. Def function can be used with a large number of block codes. Lambda function should be used for small number of block codes. Def function can be called many times in a single program. Lambda function can be called only one time in a program. So this is a syntax for lambda function or anonymous function. Lambda function may also called as anonymous function. Lambda without the name of the function, within the parentheses give the arguments, that is parameters. After placing the colon give the block expression in a single line. So we are going to execute this 1.7 for better understanding the lambda function. So open the program 7.1, 7.7. Here you can see a variable is declared some. In this line the lambda function is created with the two arguments, namely arg1 and arg2. After placing the colon, the expression or block codes are executed, that is arg1 plus arg2. So we are going to call this lambda function by simply using the variable name used for storing the output of this lambda function. Here the lambda functions are called by using the name of the variable used to store the output of the lambda function. So sum is the variable name which is used to store the output of this lambda function. So here you can see sum 30 comma 40. So 30 and 40 are the parameters used to pass through the lambda function. 30 is stored in the arg1, 40 is stored in the arg2, and both are added and stored in the output of the store. The output of the expression is stored in the variable sum. It was displayed in the screen. After the lambda function is again called, where sum minus 30 comma 40, where minus 30 is stored on the argument 1 and 40 for at the argument 2. Both are added and output is stored on the sum. Now we are going to execute this program. We can see the output on the screen 70 and 30. So the result of the 30 is because of the input is minus 30 and another input is 40 for second time. So this is the simple example for lambda function. Now we are going to understand the second topic. This lambda function is also called as anonymous function. Now we are going to understand the next topic called return statement. Of course, return statement is the statement which is specify in the user defined function used to return the output to the external area. So return statement is the point is where a function ends. So return statement is used when a function is ready to return a value to its caller. So only one return statement is executed at a time, even though function may have many return statement. It means in a single program or in a single function we may use many return statement, but only one return statement is executed at a time at the end of the function. Depending upon the control structure, we can execute any one of the return statement. So in the example 7.8 we can understand how many return statements are used in a single program and how the return statement execute depending upon the control structure. So open the 7.8 program. Here you can see a function is defined, namely user abs. The input argument is only one variable n. The n is the key, n is the required argument. The user abs is the user defined function where the block codes begins with if control structure. So first line compares the n value. If the n value is greater than or equal to 0, then it returns n, else it returns -1. So here we use two return statement in a single function, one with n, one without -n. So depending upon this condition, either this or this return statement is executed. So in the outer area you can see input prompt is executed where enter a number statement displayed on a screen and user are asked to give input which was stored in the x variable. The x value is passed to the user abs and the x value is stored on the n. Depending upon the user input, any one of these return statement is going to execute. So I'm going to execute the program. So I'm going to give the input 25. You can see 25 is printed because the first condition is true, because the value of the x is 25 which was stored in n. So 25 is greater than or equal to 0. So this statement is executed. That is the true statement of the if block. Now again I'm going to run this same program. In this time I'm going to give the input -25 where the output is 25 because the second statement is executed. So condition is false because -25 is less than 0. So the true condition is false. That's why the else part is executed. Here you can see -n. So minus into minus, I'm the input of the user function is -25. So minus into minus plus. So the output is 25. So this is the simple example for understanding the return statement using more than one time, but executing only one time depending upon the control structure of the program. So this is the uh, end of this class. I hope you understand this concept. So try to execute these programs. If you have any doubt, send messages through WhatsApp. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.